So you call yourself a silver stacker. You've been watching Silver Seeker for 3 weeks. He's called 10,000 different pawn shops and coin shops to see what they're buying silver for. You're a seasoned pro. But there's so much more to it. And again, so many different rabbit holes that you can go down. It's funny because I've been thinking about, something that we probably all have done at some point in our lives, which is playing Monopoly and the lessons that it has for just stacking silver and finance in general, just the economy. And it's really interesting because it really brought to my attention some very interesting concepts that I had never realized about, playing the game. Now, if you've never played Monopoly, it's basically capitalism on a board. The goal of the game, at least, in theory, is to eliminate the other players by owning all the property and basically making them bankrupt. Very straightforward. Now, again, most of the time, for most people, it's a very family-oriented game where you can all fight and argue and, of course, make up your own house rules that really aren't part of the game. That is pretty much par for the course when you play Monopoly. But the interesting thing that I was, came to my attention when I was thinking through, the game of Monopoly itself is really there's some interesting things towards the end of the game that are going on that you don't really realize when you're playing. So again, Monopoly, you go around the board, you land on properties, if you can't pay at some point, you either have to make backroom deals to start giving up your assets, or you just go bankrupt and the game's over for you. But the interesting part that I was thinking about is really, when you think about it, the entire goal of Monopoly is to make everything worthless again. I mean, once the person who has all the properties, has all the hotels, has all the cash, once they eliminate that last person, everything really is worthless again. There's no demand, there's no buyers, there's no one sitting there going to their hotels anymore. And so it's completely just off the map. The system's destroyed. And yes, as far as the game goes, yeah, that's how you win. But when you really think it through, how weird is it that that's really the point of the game? Secondly, the other interesting thing that came to my attention when I was thinking it through was, is eliminating everybody really the point of the game? Or is the point of the game for me as the richest person on the board to just keep accumulating assets and keep you poor so that you keep feeding me money? For example, if I was, playing Monopoly, I had, the vast majority of the properties, but somehow, you were getting the chance card and you were able to get past go every time. You're still able to keep making it around the board and giving me more and more money. I'm getting richer, but you're staying poor, and I keep getting richer and richer and richer. Now, what if the goal in the game wasn't to eliminate everyone? What if the goal was just to get as rich as I could? Then the goal becomes to keep you exceedingly poor while making sure that you just survive enough to keep getting around the board and making me richer. Very interesting. What if the goal for Monopoly wasn't to eliminate everyone? What if it was really to attain the high score in dollar value? Then it's a completely different game. And it's kind of mind-blowing. When you think about it, it's well, that'd be pretty interesting because now I have to worry about not putting you out of business, not, crushing you to the point where you can't function. I want to keep you going. I want to keep you just solvent enough to keep paying me. Now, when you think about that concept, how pertinent is that to the real world? How pertinent is that to the world that you live in? We have so many people who, especially in this country, don't realize the power that corporations wield over them. They constantly make you fall in love with products and services really at the end of the day you don't need. And you spend your day slaving away for a wage just so that you could turn around and hand it back to those same companies. Very interesting. At the same time, when you look at, the situation last year where we, again, oh my God, Joe Biden, 40-year high inflation, he's just like Jimmy Carter. The interesting part is, again, 50-year high for corporate profits. So when you look back at where was that money really going, was it really inflation or was it really that they were fleecing you under the guise of inflation? I would definitely think, it's more of them fleecing you and using inflation as an excuse. How is it that they're continually making record profits? Look at where we are now. Now that, with the way things are going, they're talking about no recession. No recession at all. That literally, it basically just begins the new, economic cycle. Is it possible? Technically it is. These are the crazy parts about like what's going on right now. And when you really think it through, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not like, something that's, way off in the distance or something that's unlikely. It is literally the system that we're living in. It's designed to keep you as poor as possible while also keeping you spending money and propping up the system. Make no mistake, if you didn't spend money, the system collapses. It depends on your consumption. It depends on you buying worthless crap and going to work. And without those things, the system doesn't go on. So how does this kind of stuff translate into that? Now you'll hear a lot of people saying, well, this is, be your own bank, that kind of stuff. Maybe, but most likely not. The best I could say for this kind of stuff is that it's a store of value outside the system. Basically that technically you don't have to go to the bank to get cash for this kind of stuff. You can literally just sell it somewhere, either peer-to-peer, pawn shop. You see that? Freudian slip, I called it the con shop. The pawn shop or the coin shop, and just go get some cash, and nobody's the wiser. So there is some value to that. Now, at some point, your coin dealer is going to have to go to the bank, so it's not a perpetually self-sustaining system. But it's interesting. Like I said, when you really think through the game of Monopoly, it's not as easy as just looking at it on the surface. And it has a lot more parallels to the world that you're living in than you probably ever realized.